We're rolling. G'day guys. Thanks for tuning in to Fishing with the Captain. Today we are going to go over a much asked question, which is why fluorocarbon? What's fluorocarbon, which fluorocarbon, and why do you do it, and what for? Why not braid to leader? Well, first things first, going back probably 2 years ago, got into the swim baiting sort of deal, throwing these bigger lures for chasing that bigger fish, and just overall adapting to a new style of fishing. I came across a lot of bites and a lot of bites from big fish, so resulting with that I was fishing with the traditional, actually I was running 60-pound braid, a really high quality braid, so it was actually really thin for its diameter, which allowed me to go heavier. So I was fishing that and fishing either 40, 50 or 60 pound leader, which is pretty much your standard leader, your 100% fluorocarbon. I believe I was using a lot of like FC Rock. I went through like Jinkai, tried all these other brands thinking that I was missing a lot of these bites because of what this leader material was made of. Went down to straight monofilament. Now, not fluorocarbon, monofilament, which is your back to square one basic line. There's very little abrasion resistance. It's got a lot of stretch, which is what I was after. I wanted that little bit more give, because nowadays a lot of people are buying rods to suit their lures, not lures to suit the fish or the rod that they have. It's kind of done a full 180 on itself. A lot of people now are adopting to fish for bigger fish, throwing these big baits, these swim baits, glide baits, one-piece baits even, and throwing them on your traditional cod barra stick, your 6'6" or your 6'10" bait caster isn't quite going to cut it. Like, you could probably do it, but it's pretty much like having the right tool for the job. You're not going to frame up a house with a little pick hammer. You need your proper hammer, proper carpenter's hammer. So you need the right tool for the job. Yeah, sure enough, you're going to do it, but you're probably going to do something to your rod, or even worse, yourself. Nonetheless, going to cut to it. Just a quick breakdown. I can name down at least half a dozen types of line. We've got monofilament, fluorocarbon, 100% fluorocarbon, copolymer, braid, gel spun. The list goes on, but they all have their purpose. They all have their time and place. Whether you're bait fishing or lure fishing, you want a faster retrieve, you get a certain action out of the lure. But in this case, I need it for the hookup. Getting the bites was an issue, but staying connected. I run fluorocarbon on a number of my setups. Now in this case, I used to import a lot from the American market about that, but the demand to get into Australia was very hard. It came to a stage where it was up to a 3-month wait. Actually, it still isn't really 100% adopted into the country. So tracking down a line to do the job wasn't easy. I've had a lot of people message me saying that they've just bought fluorocarbon off the shelf. So your normal leader material that some people might find this familiar. Yeah, it comes in like what this one is like 40 pound and like 50 meter spool. That's your 100% fluorocarbon. Most of the packets even say leader on it, fluorocarbon leader. It's sort of a dead giveaway, but the fluorocarbon that we're after, or prefer, is a fluorocarbon mainline. It should say mainline on it. And also it generally comes in a 100 meter spool, 150 yards or 100 meter spool. So that's sort of a bit of a giveaway. What I've been doing, and a lot of good friends like the boys from Ebb Tide, John, Andy, Kish, all of us really tried to nut this out and really actually flogged the crap out of this line. And this is a line that I find to be up to standard. Pulled it through some rock, timber. Meanwhile, we're still connected to some giant fish, like some serious fish. And those boys have as well. And it stood the test of time. Like, I don't think there hasn't been a time where I've had a fish swallow the lure completely gone. The line was rubbing on its teeth, but yet it was realistically, you could just pick that rod up and go again as soon as you caught that fish. So it really stands up to the test of wear and tear. This is the stuff I've been using a lot of. I run in 28, 24 and 20. I'll go through the scenarios of where and when I'll run it. But yeah, that's the stuff. It's from YGK. The boys source it from Ebb Tide. John got a hold of it from Japan. YGK is a brand of braid that I use a lot of. So when these boys jumped on it and got a hold of this stuff, I was very keen to get a hold of it. Loved it, caught fish on it. Hookup ratio was awesome. And yeah, I just went and bought a head in bulk. After catching, say, a fish, I generally do take about an arm span off and just chop it and just tie straight back on again and go away again. Yeah, it's very abrasive resistant, but it's not, or it doesn't have any stretch, like very minimal. So realistically speaking, when a lot of people are running, oh yeah, run a leader, braid to leader, you're not really getting much stretch at all. Like realistically, it's almost nothing. Especially like people say that, oh, I have it so in case the fish turns and runs away at the boat, you get that little bit of stretch. Realistically, there's not much stretch at all. If anything, a braid to leader would give you protection from wear and tear. Because braid, I'm sure you know that how tough it can be and how much pulling power it has, but realistically, that rubs against a rock, and because it's being made up of fibres, a couple of those fibres get nicked. That's pretty much like a piece of paper. As soon as you put a little tear in it, that's just going to keep going. So the scenarios I'm running you in, I'll just start from the top, like heaviest, and then I'll work my way down. Straight up, some of you may recognise this rod and reel. Just running this big meat stick has 100 metres of the 28-pound fluorocarbon. I'm throwing a lot of heavier things with this. Like this is like the come here stick, so to speak. Throwing things like your Isolite 262, Megabass Garuda, which is becoming one of my favourites very quickly. I'll talk about that in a little bit. But that 10-inch mag draft. I'm sure a lot of you out there know how much I love the mag draft and how much it produces. One-piece swim baits, so they're not a jointed swim bait as such. You have to impart the action with your rod, and with this fluoro, because it does have that tiny little bit of spring right in front of the lure, or every time you pop that rod tip, it almost works like an ocky strap. I'm sure a lot of you guys know that as you pull it, it'll snatch back. So as it's doing that, it's literally, as you twitch the rod and pull that lure forward, the line stretches, and then as you go to pop it again, it snaps back into place. So really, you're getting that rhythm flowing with the rod tip and the line working for you, and you'd be amazed how much more action you can get out of yours, especially the 262. This bad boy. There's no bib, nothing on it. It's a very it hasn't even got that much kick on it when it goes through the water. So realistically, slow rolling that lure has a very slow sort of a glide. But when you start ripping it with braid, it actually didn't have much of a difference than when I was running. It was just a slow retrieve. It done bugger all, to be honest. Like it in actually some cases where it made it roll and made the hooks come and catch on my line, which fouled the lure. But running the fluoro, jerking it, made it actually glide. I got it to a point where I was going a metre each way and just making it slide left and right. So it's been a massive positive in making lures work, increasing action, and the hook up again, because it allows them to sit under it almost, especially in some clear water lakes, so like Ilden in particular. I've got a very good example in my head where it's on the 262 and a fish sat under it. For a split second you could see it and just suck that lure right in. Like he tried to eat it, but he was only a small fish and he couldn't suck it in sideways, so it was like sitting like that in his mouth. It was pretty much too big for his mouth. But nonetheless, moving on. Going down the scale a little bit, throwing, sorry, that was a 400 size baitcaster reel. This is running over to a 300, so working the way down a bit. Now I'm throwing 24 pound on this stick. This is like this probably gets put or gets thrown around a good 60 to 70% of my fishing time. So this is probably one of the rods I hold on to the most. Fishing 24 pound fluoro, I run things like 8-inch mag draft, so scaling it down. Big M 7.5. Found a very good technique in fishing along deep rock walls, just cranking these lures right down deep. I was bottoming out at 7 meters of water, just on the cast, not even on the troll, just punching it out and just grinding it down and then slow rolling and smashing it right in the timber. There's one thing actually with this massive bib dash on the front, really smacks that timber and kicks back over the other side and keeps going. And also it's not a massive vibration action, like it doesn't crank down like your traditional Australian made divers. It goes down, has a really tight wiggle, but it has a really nice roll as it goes through the water. So you get that bit of the belly, the darker top side, and it's all like seriously, it looks like you've got a spinnerbait blade almost in the amount of flash and the amount it carries on through the water. It's really nice. It's in their face, but it's a bit more subtle, so you don't get that real thump in the water. When you want to just, you get that real nice presence about it, you can see it. So there's that. The 4.0, another thing I throw on it. Swim baits like a battalion. The 1 through 5 I throw on the 24, and the big 190 I throw on the 28 pound fluoro. I also have a stick that's getting a bit of repair done actually, and the reel's getting serviced. I run 20 pound fluoro on that, and it's actually a little 200 size bait caster, the same as this, but I run it with the 20 pound fluoro, and that's what I'm throwing. Small mumblers, probably up to your 5-8 ounce. Your swimming jigs with a little paddle tail plastic on the back, even weedless plastics, stuff like that I will throw on the 20 pound fluoro. So that's going with that. Braid. Now I still do run braid. I throw big mumblers, spinnerbaits, I still throw my surface paddlers in particular, and wake baits. I found that I missed a fair few fish fishing wake baits and paddlers on fluoro, just because most of you know that when you send it out there, your line gets a bit of a belly in it as it is. So when the fish boofs it or smacks it, you need that pretty much half a second to a second delay reaction from the hook set. So you want him to actually grab it and then you bury those hooks. Whereas if you had the fluoro in this situation, pretty much you have to take up all that belly plus the stretch, then to come up tight, the fish could have well and truly thrown the lure and been on his way. So I throw a lot of spinner baits, even for like your yellow fishing, stuff like that. What else do I have here? Frog, surface frog fishing, little fast ratio reel. That's got 30 pound braid on it. I love throwing. That's probably my little walk the bank, flicking, with a backpack on your back and just walking the banks. That's probably the sort of setup. Running, just your braid, 30 pound braid, so you can run like your 30, 40 pound leader. I'm not telling or advising everyone, strip your reels of braid and chuck this crap on. All I'm saying is this has its time and place, and it has massive pros over the cons. Like the con I can really pick is having it set to the right lure. Like I was saying earlier, I wouldn't use it when I'm surface fishing. Because having the fish could easily cough it up before you react to it. But yeah, some of the spinnerbait fishing, the same sort of deal, and mumblers as well. Just a heads up that I know a lot of people, actually I know a lot of people have tried spooling it. One thing I learned is fluorocarbon, mono, regardless, has a memory. So when it comes off a spool, so when you say right now, you got the packet and you want to spool up a reel, and I can see the tag coming off here once it's coming on that way. If I was to have my reel, say for instance my reel is right here, this reel cover is my reel, you want it to come off the top and go into the reel. Don't have it come under, up on the reel. So you're pretty much putting a figure 8 in the line, which is adding a loop. You're pretty much adding a twist. Every revolution that spool's going around, you're putting it on the reel, you're putting a revolution, a twist on the line. So just note that, come off the top and straight into the reel. Pretty much like a tape recorder, the old VHS cassettes, run it on, the same way it comes off. Also when you're casting, for some of you that might have your cast control set right back and you like to just let the lure fly out with minimal effort or whatever, but I highly suggest, and I still have my reel set this way, whatever you're used to, just crank that cast control knob just half a turn. So if you're not too sure what the cast control knob is, it's that little one there is what I'm talking about. If some of you call it something else, well, that one right there, have it half a turn up than what you're normally used to. Just because it does take a little bit more effort to send out, because braid obviously weighs next to nothing, but this stuff is, like I was saying earlier, it's very dense and it sinks, which is actually another pro that I forgot to mention was, especially running these swim baits, you're a lot more direct and you can achieve such greater depth in retrieving some of your lures. Like that's, going back to the Big M, throwing with braid, I couldn't get it past 6 meters. And with the fluorocarbon on a long cast, I was easily punching 7. Punching 7 meters. Like, I dare say if I let more line out and controlled it, you definitely get down to your 9 meter mark. For sure. So, yeah. But yes, for those that don't know, the reason why I was missing so many fish was just because the fish would stalk the swim bait, especially something very subtle like this Garuda. This Garuda works best, absolute dead slow, like it just moves so realistic, and the fish stalk it a lot longer than what more people think. Like, I've had fish stalk this at least half of the retrieve, and with some of this gear now, we can send our lures a long way. What we thought was a bite, and then thinking nothing of it, and coming to the boat and it was a fish, showed itself. So he's obviously had a go, or he's shown a bit of interest, and he's still curious. So that tells me that actually stalking the lure, like sitting behind it, eyeing it off, calculating what's he gonna do, or having a real good suss of it. So he's sitting behind it, and more often than not, when they do decide to implode on it, it really is an implosion. They will sit a while away from it and still suck it in from a distance. So you need that little bit of stretch, especially with the real fast, heavy, taper to some of the swim boat rods that, to get this thing out. 6 ounces, I believe. 6 ounces and 236 mil, so it's a pretty hefty size lure. So you want to launch this a long way. Yeah, it takes a bit of effort, but yeah, these rods seem to do it alright. But that faster taper, heavier rod pretty much sacrifices that stretch element, or that little bit of give. Like with some of the lighter, softer tapered rods that most of the users are accustomed to, and they're now moving up to the swim bait sort of game, you can be a little bit heartbroken with the amount of bites that you can be missing. Is exactly what this fluorocarbon replaces. So, but just going on this, I've also just, while I've got it, had a couple of people message about the Garuda, just up close. It's a three-piece bait with a rubber tail on the end, interchangeable tail. It's got a real solid bib, like that's not glued on there, that's added on in the moulding process. Very, very lifelike eyes, comes in awesome colour, like brown trout colour is one of my favourites, but I really like this one. It also has, over camera you can pick it up just under there, it's actually got a ring for an attachment. As is out the box, it floats. You can use it as a wake bait or just subsurface, probably sit in the top foot or two when you start on the slow roll, but if you hold your rod tip high, you can actually get it to wake. But just adding, I believe, a ½ ounce weight will make it suspend, but adding an ounce will make it gradually sink. The ½ ounce actually on a slow roll will make it actually dive and suspend when you stop. But yeah, the 1 ounce will obviously bring it down on the pause. So it's a bit of a very versatile lure. Realistically, you're probably getting a wake bait, swim bait, and then you've got something that can go down real deep, which is basically another swim bait. But yeah, you're covering pretty much 3 areas of the water column: the surface, swim it through the open water or some structure, or roll it down the bottom. So yeah, that's it there, that's the Mega Bass Gorilla. Nonetheless, just signing out, if you guys have any more questions regarding gear, boat setup, I've had a lot recently. I know it's summer and open season, well actually by the time you watch this is probably season open, so setting the boat up, gear, tackle, whatever, if you guys want to see it, let me know. I'll do my best to show it, and yeah, I hope you guys all have a cracking season. I know I've got a lot of plans for this up and coming season, so nonetheless guys, take care. You're fishing the captain.